Welcome back to Full Circle, Florida. President-elect Donald Trump's mass deportation plan will have sweeping impacts across the country and here in Florida. But this week, Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders learned why state leaders are saying it is not going to be their problem.
On the campaign trail, the former president vowed to deliver one of his biggest promises on day one, the mass deportation of undocumented migrants.
When I'm reelected, we will begin removing these criminals, these horrible people from our midst, and we'll end up doing it immediately.
January 20 now, less than 2 months away, and in Florida's capital,
a quorum is present, Madam President.
New state leaders say it's not their purview.
Any sort of immigration policy that comes from the federal government is for the federal government to decide. That's a question that you should be asking the president.
Both Florida House Speaker Danny Perez and Senate President Ben Albritton sidestepped the question this week. That's despite what could be huge impacts on their constituents.
The federal government is the federal government. State government is state government. That's a federal issue.
Effect on the state of Florida, will it not? On the workforce, on the economy, and the people that live in the state, that are allowed to reside in the state, pay taxes in the state. All those areas could be disrupted by that new plan.
That's up to the federal government. We'll see what they do.
Exactly what they'll do remains unclear. Trump has confirmed he'll use the military. Texas has offered up land along the border for deportation facilities. Trump advisors have even said he'll seek to again eliminate DACA, an Obama-era program that protects undocumented who arrived as children.
For those who are afraid, I will tell you this. Be afraid of Trump because Trump has proven to you who he is.
Florida Democrats like Rep. Marie Woodson, a Haitian migrant herself, have warned for months what these mass deportations could mean for Florida. Her concern, a rise in bigotry and racial profiling.
Okay, mass deportation. In mass deportation, you don't know who's going to be in that mass, but we know for sure he doesn't want the people who came from the Biden program, the people, our brothers and sisters in Springfield, Ohio. He doesn't want them here. He doesn't want the TPS recipient. He doesn't want Haitian in general.
There's a major economic concern, too. The latest data from the American Immigration Council shows Florida has one of the highest populations of undocumented in the country, about 1.1 million. There are about 7% of the workforce here with jobs in ag, hospitality, and construction, contributing about $2 billion to state and locals in taxes alone. The Brookings Institution recently suggested mass deportations could lead to a decrease in work for citizens. Researchers found for every 500,000 deported, U.S.-born employment dropped by about 44,000. Quote, occupations common among unauthorized workers, such as construction laborers and cooks, are essential to keep businesses operating.
We're protecting Floridians with the full extent of our powers to do that, but it's sad. It's sad to see what's happened. It's sad to see these images of the lawlessness.
Florida's governor and lawmakers have multiple state immigration laws already on the books, with strict work verification rules for employers. They say they're more focused on making the labor market inhospitable rather than mass deportation. But that was 2023. A new era may be on the horizon, and for now, Florida's lawmaking leaders are content with waiting to see what happens next. In Tallahassee, Forrest Saunders, ABC Action News.
Okay, let's bring in ABC Action News political analyst Dr. Susan MacManus. So state lawmakers, Susan, are essentially telling Forrest Saunders this week, this deportation issue is not going to be their problem. They're focused on Florida issues. But there are a lot of questions and concerns about how exactly this is going to be executed. You've got farmers from here in Florida out to California who are concerned that mass deportation would lead to roundups of their workers. Is there any word specifics from the Trump administration on how they're going to go about doing this? Could it impact the agriculture industry? Could they work around farm workers?
Well, let's start first of all. What they have said is that they're going to go after first criminals, the gang members that are scaring people, people who have already been found not to be legal to be in the country but haven't left. So they're going to go after that first, and that will be a lot of people, actually, several million estimate at least. And then in terms of the farm issue, let's look a little bit. The three top industries most affected by undocumenteds: number one, construction; number two, ag; and number three, hospitality. Now, obviously, the ag is a big question because it affects so many states. But there is a program already in place. It's called the Temporary Agricultural Workers Program, where you can bring these people in, you know, big companies, big farm companies, that's a lot of those today as big farmers, bring these people in. They have to be vetted, of course, but it's not like we're going to have every worker in Florida leave without any kind of possibility of this kind of program.
Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine intensifying in the last days of the Biden White House after President Biden allowed Ukraine to use missiles that can fire into Russia. What is the point of this if incoming President-elect Donald Trump has said he's going to broker a deal between Zelensky and Putin?
I think a lot of it can be traced back to the strong support and feeling that Biden has for NATO and the NATO countries. And it's almost like they were after him because he authorized the missiles but not the firing. It's almost like he is trying to leave office doing what they wanted and bolstering his belief and support in the importance of NATO.
Meanwhile, President-elect Trump has rated, so to speak, Florida's political leadership for top roles in his administration. He is shaping Florida's congressional delegation in his own image, Politico reported this week. He endorsed Florida Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis, who immediately stepped down and said he's running, and then Republican State Senator Randy Fine in the House. They both weren't even officially running for that office, for Matt Gaetz' seat. And then they both resigned and jumped in once they got the golden Trump endorsement. So is this at all a conflict of interest between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis and who has the most power in Florida?
Not necessarily, because those congressional seats were open seats. But Trump is certainly cashing in on his big victory. And he's picking people that he thinks will be very supportive in Congress, where the Republicans are going to only have a 2-seat margin. So he picks people, but on the other hand, DeSantis has some really powerful choices too. He gets to fill that U.S. Senate seat, and he also gets to fill the Patronis seat because he stepped down as CFO. So it's like each of them has a playing field where they can really exert a lot of influence.
Another issue that got headlines this week, the tariff thing that Trump has promised to do. Day one, he said he's going to have an executive order that will impose a 25% tariff on everything imported from Mexico and Canada, 10% tax on goods from China. And there are starting to be some real questions about how realistic is this. And here's the question I have. You know, this is what he tried to do his first term. It didn't work. And now these other countries sort of see it coming and they're already reacting to it. And the honeymoon will be over real quick if these tariffs lead to consumers paying more and inflation going way up.
Well, without question, the economists say if they stay in place a long while, they will certainly drive up costs in a hurry, which of course is one of the ways he ran was to say he's going to bring down prices. It's clearly a bargaining position. The proof is in the pudding already. He's had a call with Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada. And there's a South Florida Democrat congressmember who said this is a great way to really get at stopping fentanyl and the illegals passing over the border. My guess is that these tariffs will be used sparingly, but long enough to get action on the part of the trading partners.
All right, we'll hang there. Final thoughts when we come back on the week that was and the week ahead.